For the 17 years of my existence here on Earth, I have only lived in one subdivision. This. Welcome to Villa Grande Home Subdivision, housing as we call it. I witnessed this peaceful open subdivision turn into a more commercialized village. This is why many people actually want to live here. Aside from being a nice residential area, everything is now in this place. There's a grocery store, a wet market, a bakery, a drugstore, a hotel, a coffee shop, a convenience store, a branch of LCC supermarket, a school, and a church. Villa Grande Homes is like a city in itself, except you don't need to travel far because everything is just a walk away. I'm telling you, it's a good place to stay. Or is it? The best thing about Villa Grande Homes is everything is here. The bad thing? Everything is here, including danger, because of the notable disaster risk in this village. Before explaining why I believe that, let me first explain what exactly a disaster risk is by breaking down the term. A disaster is a sudden calamitous event bringing a great damage or loss to property or life. A disaster risk is the probability that a community structure or geographical area is to be damaged or disrupted by the impact of a particular hazard. Since a disaster risk is a probability, a mathematical term, we can then calculate it. Hence, we can manage it. How? By analyzing the risk diagram. The risk diagram is defined by three components: hazard, vulnerability, and exposure. Hazard is an element of the environment that is a source of danger. Vulnerability refers to the characteristics and circumstances of something that makes it susceptible to the damaging effects of a hazard. And lastly, exposure is the degree to which an element is likely to experience hazard events. When all of these are present at the same time, there is a great risk of disaster at hand. Going back, Villa Grande Homes possesses hazards and vulnerabilities behind this impressive progress as a community. First, the commercialization makes it more vulnerable to crimes. Residents from near subdivisions also come here to avoid the center rush. So it's always packed with cars and people, especially after school and office hours. Hence, the more the population, the more become vulnerable to theft. In our street, a bag containing 17,000 pesos has already been stolen from a woman casually walking by. Crimes are not usual here, but as we become wealthier, the risk of theft is rather high. Also, the cars brought in all the time make the people more vulnerable to transportation accidents. In addition to cars, jeepneys add to the vulnerability of this technological hazard. Villa Grande Homes is the boundary of Barangay Concepcion Grande, and so, the jeepneys taking the Concepcion Panganiban route to Centro start and end their full trip inside our subdivision. Just right over here. Although they tend to drive slowly as they enter the subdivision, you don't know how many times I almost got hit by a jeepney here. You'd think that after passing by the major commercial buildings, you're safe now, but no. Unseen hazards are located in minor streets like ours. Ruby Road is the first left turn as you enter the subdivision, and as you turn left from B&G Mart, you can already spot a major hazard. This unused pipe that is unevenly covered with cement can cause accidents of bikers taking the left turn out and the right turn in, and can also make people trip over, especially at night when this part of the street is not lit up. There are also biologic hazards here. These pieces of trash you see are always present here, and at night, rats and cockroaches, common pests in Filipino households, often come out of this drainage. Let's walk a little forward. The next hazard will not be noticed at first sight, but it's truly dangerous. This is a clamp of a water pipe attached by Lawasa, and instead of digging it deeper, It was finished off while still popped out of the road. Covered up with soil, this metal is not visible, but when passed by a bicycle, an elderly walking, a young kid running, or any person unaware, there is a great possibility that an accident, or worse, death, will happen. On the other side, we can also spot some hazards. Yup, it's in this part. Can you guess which one? First is that water pipe. The place I'm standing on is a sidewalk, and so the pipe obstructs the people walking by this path, and like the clamp, it can cause them to trip over. The other one is the switch to this lamppost. To turn this on, a person needs to connect these two open-ended electrical wirings, and as you can see, the lamppost is metal, and it is a common knowledge that metal is a good conductor of electricity, so any wrong move by the person switching the lamp can cause him or her to be electrocuted. This speaks of a great disaster risk, especially that there are still a lot of this kind of lampposts scattered in the subdivision. And of course, a major vulnerability to disaster is this massive area of unoccupied land. The tall grasses make it vulnerable to fire. When this happens, adjacent buildings like the B&G Mart and that orange apartment will catch fire too, especially that this area still extends until the highway. With the rapid development, there are far more hazards and vulnerabilities in Villa Grande homes. But let us remember that if we just remove or provide solution for any element, may it be hazard, vulnerability, or exposure, then there will be no more risk for disaster, and we can finally live in a safer environment.